On August 4th, 2004, 42-year-old Mary Kay Letourneau was set to be released from the Washington Correction Center for Women after serving a 7.5-year sentence for child rape. Prison hadn't been easy for Mary Kay. She struggled with isolation, depression, rumors, and the harsh realities of life inside. There were reports about how she adapted or failed to adapt to her new reality, including speculation about friendships and relationships with other inmates. A former inmate, Christina Dress, who knew Mary Kay during her time behind bars, spoke publicly about those rumors. Joining her for the interview was journalist Greg Olson, and together they gave some insight into Mary Kay's life in prison and what might be waiting for her when she gets out.
Does she still think she did nothing wrong?
She's certain she did nothing wrong. I mean, and like I've said before, she feels that she's blessed and lucky, and she said that to me exactly, that she's got something that some of us will never have. She's certain of it.
Well, it's incredible that after the original sentence, the resentencing back to jail after she was released, just recently in November, I believe the 19th, she was put in solitary confinement for phone conversations again with Vili. Doesn't she know they have her conversations? They can record them. They can eavesdrop on them.
Yeah, she knew that, and she knew it months ago when it happened. The same thing happened to her for communication with Vili. It doesn't bother her because she wants the instant gratification of talking to him now. She loves him. She misses him. Wow. And she's going to communicate with him no matter what.
And she'll even do solitary confinement. You know, sure. A lot of us on the outside wonder what she sees and what was once a 6th grade student. But what has started a storm of controversy is an allegation, I believe it was in the Globe magazine, yes, of lesbian relationships Mary Kay Letourneau is having behind bars. And you refute that. Is that correct?
The Globe was a gross exaggeration. I've told them that, and I would tell you that. Very little in that article had any truth to it at all. I did talk to them. I made a few comments to them that were true, and they just went to Hollywood with it. That's what I've.
So you refute those allegations. And Greg Olson, it leads me to a very interesting point. Everyone that meets Mary Kay Letourneau, Greg, they seem to be fascinated with her, and there are all these accounts about her relationships behind bars. Greg, what do you make of it?
The allegation of the lesbian affair?
Well, just the continued fascination with Mary Kay Letourneau. Here, this story is apparently trumped up in the Globe about lesbian relationships, but there's still an ongoing fascination with Mary Kay Letourneau.
There is, and sometimes I just can't imagine why it does continue, but Mary is a media magnet. People just go to her. They have, she has access to the media in ways that most prisoners don't have. I mean, she can pick up the phone and call Barbara Walters if she wanted today, and I don't think of any other prisoners that could probably do that. We are fascinated because she's pretty, she's a teacher, she gave up everything for what she says is a love story when the rest of us have a hard time buying that.
Will these phone calls to Vili Fualaau affect her release date? She's not exactly getting good behavior marks.
Yeah, I don't think she's earned one day of good behavior. But Mary doesn't care. I mean, she really says that I want to live my life right now, right to the fullest, and if that means thumbing my nose at the rules that they've imposed on me, I'll do it.
Well, Christina, there were some supporting comments from Mary Kay Letourneau to support the Globe story. I believe you've gotten letters from Mary Kay.
Oh yes, I'm not refuting the whole thing. I mean, Mary Letourneau is very open-minded. She's accepting and loving, and has made it very clear to me through our friendship that she doesn't care who you love, it's that you love. And she's
now your letters did indicate relationships behind bars.
I believe she has had an encounter or two.
What specifically makes you say that?
Well, the specific letter that she wrote me, one letter from when she was in ADSEG and solitary, that she'd had a roommate that her back rub went a little far, and pretty soon she didn't have her pants on and was concerned it was going to go further, and she got afraid, and it did not. She also was very chummy with another young gal that resembled Vili. That was kind of the talk for a while.
Yeah, I heard that report that she had fallen for a woman behind bars that resembled Vili, her 6th grade boyfriend. But long story short,
again, it's all exaggerated. Yeah. I mean, you know, I don't know that Mary has slept with anybody in the prison, you know.
Christina, last question before we have to go. Does she realize that she has an obsession with this boy? She's in jail. She's gone to solitary several times. Does she think they're going to have like a marriage and a relationship when she gets out of jail?
Oh, definitely. She's counting on it.
What about her 4 children from her husband?
She loves them. She loves them. She misses them. But Vili is the focus. Their relationship is at the forefront of her mind always.
As Mary Kay's release date drew near, you could really feel the anticipation building, not just within Mary Kay's own circle, but across the media and the public at large. Tabloids speculated, talk shows revisited her story, and everyone seemed to have an opinion about whether she'd try to reconnect with Vili once she got out. For many, it wasn't just another tabloid story, but a heavy situation that felt almost unresolved.
It seems from your interview, they both do want to see each other, yes?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, obviously they have 2 children to raise, either together or separately. And I think that even after all these years have passed, that there really still is some sort of a love affair going on between the 2 of them. And we'll see them together somehow in the future.
Vili, who's 21, said this to you: "I've been imagining and thinking about what our life would be like together for a long time, but I can't say what will happen. No one can. I want to know what her true feelings are first." What is he like? I mean, as you spent time with him, he's 21 years old. What's your impression?
Yeah, Anderson, I was really impressed by him, considering really everything that he's gone through. I mean, he's lived in this tempest, this media tempest for 7 or 8 years, really. He could be, off the deep end by now, but the man that I saw, and I always like to stress he's a man now, he's 21, he's not the 13-year-old boy, that she saw and fell in love with. He's a grown man, and I feel like he's strong enough now to maybe make decisions that are best for him, which is kind of good news, don't you think?
But she was always saying that, she saw something in him that other people didn't see, that he was strong, that he was wise beyond his years. Back then, did he seem that way to you?
Well, as a kid, I didn't see any of that. And I don't really know anyone who did. But when I look at the man today, I wonder maybe there were some things that Mary was able to see that the rest of us couldn't. And not that he's wise beyond his years, but he's certainly a survivor and has been through a lot and seems to have his head on straight right now.
Does society treat this differently? I mean, if this was a man doing this to a boy or a man doing this to a girl, would it be thought of in the same way? I mean, would the word relationship even be used?
That's right. I mean, sometimes I get confused. Is it a crime story? Is it a love story? Was it consensual? Was it a rape? All of that seems to be, fodder for discussion. We really don't know. What we do know now, though, is he's 21. And as a young man, I think he's got the right to say whether he wants to be with her or not. And she has the right to say, whether she should or not herself. So I think we're sort of out of it right now.
And I don't want to pry too much into their privacy because they've lived out of the spotlight now, but what's in general happened to her family? I mean, to her kids, to her former husband?
That's right. She divorced Steve Letoruneau several years after this all happened, and the 4 oldest children, moved up to Alaska. They did eventually, after the divorce, did get visitation with their mother in prison. They visited semi-regularly, not as often as the court allowed. So she has had a lot of contact, or some contact, with those children. The 2 littlest children that she had with Vili Fualaau, she sees quite regularly in prison, and is very close to those girls.
They're being raised by Fualaau's mother. What's going to happen? I mean, is she going to try to get custody of them? Could there be a custody fight?
I think so. Mary has, she's been deprived of motherhood, and she always views herself, and always has, as a great mother. So I think she's going to want to raise those children in her own home, obviously with Vili. But it's going to be tough, because Suna Fualaau has done a great job raising those kids, and she's not going to let them go easily.
Has there been any acknowledgement on her part that she did anything wrong, that she did anything inappropriate or illegal?
The only thing she ever acknowledged to me was that she felt the adultery part of the relationship was wrong, that she was married to Steve Letoruneau, and that her involvement with Vili was wrong on that level. She's never really apologized for the fact that she loves him and that she wanted to be with him. She's never apologized to her own children. So she's got this idea that the adultery, that's the crime, it was a personal crime, and that the rest of us really should back out of it.
On the day of Mary Kay's release, news crews had been camped outside the prison, waiting to capture every second. When she exited, cameras flashed and live updates raced across TV screens. But with all eyes on her expecting the next scandal or a dramatic reunion, Mary Kay sought out something entirely different. Instead of rushing toward Vili, she went straight to the ocean. searching for a sense of peace and calm in the middle of all the chaos. She would later describe that moment in stark personal terms. Quote, "In prison, you're in statutory deprivation. Everything is concrete and steel. You don't get to feel texture, and the noise is as harsh as the materials. There's actually a shock that happens to the body physically. There was a time when I was in prison that I wondered, will I ever make it out of here alive? Or ever have my feet in the ocean? I wanted to go to the ocean and feel water. And when I did, I had my feet in the ocean. I couldn't feel anything. I look back at that moment and think, wow, I didn't feel anything." While the world was busy guessing if she'd reunite with Vili, Mary Kay was keeping her distance. Even if she had wanted to see him, a strict no-contact order was still in place. If she violated that order, she faced a risk of being sent back to prison. With Vili now officially an adult, he decided to take matters into his own hands. He petitioned the court to have the no-contact order lifted. Because he was 21, it was now legally possible for him to request that restriction be removed, arguing that he was no longer a minor and could make decisions for himself about seeing or contacting Mary Kay. On August 6, 2004, just 2 days after Mary Kay's release from prison, a judge officially lifted the no-contact order. In her first post-prison interview with Barbara Walters, Mary Kay described their reunion and what life was like now as a free woman.
You've only been out of prison about a month. How long after you got out of prison were you in contact with Vili?
Oh,
A day? A week?
not too many hours after the no contact order was lifted.
Did he call you or did you call him?
I waited for him to call me.
Have you been intimate with Vili?
Well, what we most like about this part of our life right now is that it's nobody's business.
I accept that. Mary, what does he give you?
When you share the same perspective on life with someone and intellectually you have that closeness, emotionally you have it, I can't imagine traveling and seeing something without him, learning together, being with him, supporting him for what he would like to do in this life.
You are now how old?
I'm 42.
Vili is 21.
Mm-hmm.
Does this age difference bother you at all?
I'm sure we both wish that we were closer in age so that we would, with more certainty, know that we would have the longest time possible together with each other.
And then we asked Mary the number one question.
Do you plan to marry Vili?
We've always planned that and it hasn't changed.
When are you going to get married?
Oh, that has not been decided.
Would you like to have more children with Vili?
Well, I'm healthy enough.
I have to ask you this, Mary, because I don't want to read about it in another tabloid. Are you pregnant now?
Oh, no.
Your 2 little girls are being raised by Vili's mother. Will you try to get custody of these children?
I would never do anything without considering what is best for our children. I have so much respect for Vili's mother for taking the children and raising them. I know the love that our children have for her. And as a family, we need to come together and do what's best for our little girls. What's realistic is a shared custody.
And then I know that you had to register as a offender, that photographs of you have been sent to thousands of homes describing you as a risk to the community. You've been called a child molester, a pedophile.
I've been called those things by people that don't know me, don't know the situation, And I don't blame them for the little bits that they heard, how it was represented. It was a misrepresentation.
Are you a risk to the community?
Anyone that knows me even a little bit would say absolutely not. No, it's just, there's no concern at all.
You've suffered, your children have suffered, your whole family has suffered. Did you realize that any of this would happen?
Not even a little bit.
Mary, was it worth it?
I remember as the elevator closed, right after I was sentenced to serve out the 7.5 years, there was a reporter as the elevator was closing. She said, Mary, was it worth it? And the doors closed on it. And here's the question again.
Mm-hmm. Can you answer it?
I don't look at life that way. I do my best. So if you asked me that question, did you do your best through every situation? I can say I did my best. I did. I did do my best.
As Mary Kay and Vili tried to settle into their new normal, there was a lot of curiosity about her relationship with her 4 older children from her marriage to Steve Letourneau. While the public often speculated that she was completely estranged from them, Mary Kay later shared that wasn't entirely the case. Her children had been living in Anchorage, Alaska with their father, but they did visit her in prison on occasion. It wasn't easy, but according to Mary Kay, she was still able to maintain a good relationship with them. In her interview with Barbara Walters, Mary Kay discussed how her time in prison had affected her older children and the journey they were all on as a family to heal from everything they had been through.
Your older children have visited you in prison. Are you hoping that you can have a close relationship, that you can rebuild that part of your life?
I have a very close relationship with my 4 children from my marriage. Very, very close. We've always been in a process, a healing process, and this is a new part of that healing process. Prison is not a safe place to touch emotions. There's not a lot of support there for that. And something as deep as the pain that my children went through, I'm afraid to touch that pain. They still go to sleep at night and their mother's not there.
How did you get through it?
Well, I lived through it by not touching the pain.
In the months following Mary Kay's release, she and Vili did their best to adapt to life and the constant glare of public attention. There were everyday challenges, figuring out how to live as a family, staying out of the public spotlight, and slowly piecing together some kind of normalcy. Even routines once taken for granted required new energy, new trust. But even with the controversy and judgment surrounding them, Mary Kay and Vili's relationship continued to move forward. On October 11, 2004, during an appearance on CNN's Larry King Live, Mary Kay announced that they were officially engaged. The news of Mary Kay and Vili's engagement made instant headlines, stoking a media frenzy that reignited fierce public debate. Tabloid and entertainment outlets pushed the narrative of a sensational, forbidden love story, one that was almost surreal in its twists and turns. On the other hand, major news organizations and many journalists approached it from a far darker angle, revisiting the trauma, the legal implications, and the power dynamics at the root of their relationship. Reactions among the public were sharply divided. Many were truly horrified by the engagement, seeing it as the ultimate result of an abuser's grooming and manipulation of a minor. Critics questioned whether Mary Kay should have ever been permitted to marry Vili, given her conviction. The announcement forced a reckoning, sparking renewed debate about gender bias in the legal system. Many pointed out that if the roles were reversed, the response would almost certainly have been harsher, and the idea of romance would never have entered the conversation. For every person who viewed the engagement as a dramatic testament to love against all odds, there were just as many who condemned it as fundamentally abusive, more than the continuation of a long cycle of trauma than a triumph over it. Inside Vili's own family, the response was complicated as well. While some relatives wanted to support his choices, others voiced deep concern. Vili's uncle shared his worries with the press, saying, quote, "We don't support the wedding. We care for him, but we don't care for what he's doing. I feel she's still controlling him." Beneath the headlines and public commentary, Mary Kay and Vili felt those fractures closing in, and as they prepared for their wedding, they struggled behind the scenes. Money was a constant worry. Mary Kay, now a convicted felon and registered, struggled to find work. Vili, who had dropped out of school, found only occasional low-wage jobs, never quite enough to build a stable life. Meanwhile, their daughters, Audrey and Georgia, were living with Vili's mother, Suna, while Mary Kay and Vili tried to find footing as a couple and as parents. On May 20th, 2005, Mary Kay and Vili were married at the Columbia Winery in Woodinville, Washington, surrounded by 200 guests, including her eldest daughter from her previous marriage, who served as her maid of honor, along with her eldest son. Mary Kay's two youngest children with Steve Letoruneau were not in attendance. Audrey and Georgia, her daughters with Vili, were flower girls. Given their financial situation and the public interest in their story, Mary Kay and Vili made the decision to sell the exclusive rights to their wedding to Entertainment Tonight and its sister show, The Insider. The exact terms of the deal were never made public, but it was widely reported to be a six-figure sum. Selling the rights helped pay for their celebration and provided much-needed financial stability. It was a practical choice, but not without its cost. As they began this new chapter, Mary Kay's new mother-in-law, Suna Fualaau, went to the media to share her thoughts on her son's wedding and marriage to his former teacher. For Suna, the wedding brought a complicated mix of emotions, a sense of relief that this part of their lives was finally moving forward, but also apprehension about the choices her son was making. I guess part of me is relieved that one part of our lives has come to a close, that we're a family that's on the road to healing. I think all mothers would like to choose the course for all of their children, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it will be the right course. If I were to choose the course and it didn't turn out the way it was supposed to turn out, then he will turn around, in fact, and blame me. That is the course that my son had chosen for himself, so he's living it out. I look at Mary Kay as my equal as far as age. She is the mother of my granddaughters, and I know we'll get past this. After the rush of headlines faded, Mary Kay and Vili settled into married life, largely out of the public eye. Their focus quickly shifted to their daughters, Audrey and Georgia, who had been in the custody of Vili's mother, Suna. For Mary Kay and Vili, getting custody wasn't just a matter of family. It was a legal challenge. And if custody was going to change, it would take action, a convincing case to the court, not just to Suna, that their daughters would be better off with them. In their everyday lives, Mary Kay and Vili were just trying to hold on to some normalcy. For a while, the media attention faded, and they mostly stayed out of the headlines, focusing on family and day-to-day activities. But after nearly a year under the radar, their story resurfaced, this time in the pages of People magazine, where they opened up about what life was like as a married couple. Quote, "We do normal things," Mary Kay told the outlet. "We all went out to dinner at our favorite Mexican restaurant, then over to Blockbuster to rent a movie." End quote. Life looked, at least on the surface, surprisingly ordinary. The couple shared a rental 3-bedroom house near the beach in Normandy Park, Washington. Money was still tight, with both of them relying on what remained from the 6-figure TV rights for their wedding. Mary Kay had lost her teaching license, and Vili, now hoping to become a tattoo artist, hustled for every dollar he could. The interview also captured the ongoing custody push for their daughters, then 8 and 7. Quote, "It'll be nice to take the girls to Disneyland and not have to ask the state or notify Vili's mom." Meanwhile, her 4 older children from her previous marriage were slowly returning to her life. Steve Jr., her oldest, moved down from Anchorage to stay with her. Her daughter, Mary Claire, off at college nearby, visited often, and even her 2 youngest, Jacqueline and Nicholas, were coming around more regularly. Blending 2 families brought its own kind of stress. For Vili, barely older than some of Mary Kay's children, there was always a sense of being the outsider. Quote, "I feel like I don't really have a place except that I'm their mother's husband," he confessed. He admitted to rivalry with Steve Jr., who was just a year younger. Quote, "I feel a bit of competition, like who deserves mom's attention more? I back down because she's his mom and I don't want him hating me, but I get so frustrated." End quote. Vili faced legal trouble of his own. Stopped by police for speeding and found to have been drinking, he was later found guilty, adding more strain to an already delicate family dynamic. Still, Mary Kay clung to their routines. Saturday nights reserved for each other, the hope of having another child one day, and daily moments with their daughters. There were dance classes, costumed spirit days, and ordinary errands to the supermarket. Even in these glimpses of their lives, Mary Kay found moments to explain their history, reminding Audrey, quote, "Mommy and Daddy fell in love, but the rules were that we needed to wait until Daddy was older," end quote. Despite the unique path their relationship had taken, the hope was to build a life that, in the quiet of their home, felt just a little bit normal. But these new routines didn't always erase discomfort.
Talk to me a little bit about how this last year has gone. I mean, any new marriage requires adjustment, but I would imagine the circumstances surrounding your marriage in particular may have required some more adjustment than normal. Describe it for me.
We really started with nothing, and there was something nice about that, but it was also very, very difficult and took a lot of time because our priority was and is to build a home for all of our children.
Let me just ask you, if there's someone watching this interview right now, Mary in particular, who still is shaking their head about this relationship, saying, you know what, there's just something wrong, what would you say to that person?
We're just really good people loving our family.
I would say that she's, she's done her time. I mean, she's done 7 years, and there's a lot of other male rapers out there that do 6 months and they're out.
Let me ask you where you stand in the process of gaining full custody of your daughters.
We already have been awarded custody. We're just in a natural transition, and they spend nights with us and nights with their grandmother. And as soon as the school year is over, which is coming up pretty soon, then they'll be home full time with us.
I have a 5-year-old, Mary and Vili, and you know, from time to time he asks me those questions, you know, how did you meet mommy and all things like that. What at their ages have you shared with them and what haven't you shared with them?
Audrey, our 8-year-old, she just recently, she does this with my son and his girlfriend also. She started with them and she said, tell a story. How'd you meet? And so I don't know, I was expecting it to come our direction.
Well, how honest were you with her?
I was actually very honest with her. She already knew that her dad was a student of mine. I said, well, I had a hunch that he really liked me, but I was trying to ignore him.
There was a time, Mary and Vili, where your pictures were on fronts of newspapers and on television shows. And so when you all go out now as a family, do you ever get the sense that there are whispers behind your back?
Sometimes I get that feeling probably like 50% of the time when I walk into the grocery store. I always feel like the cashier or whispering something about me, but I just, you know, so what? You know, I'm grocery shopping just like everyone else.
Do you think, Mary, in some ways, the fact that you two are still together after this year of marriage proves some of the naysayers wrong?
We're just working hard to be a family. It does feel good that people they say congratulations to us, and there's a lot of heartfelt emotion from people. Just, you know, people that said they prayed for us all those years. And anyway, so I think there were more people with us than the loud voices that were having opinions that you're talking like right now that may be misjudged.
There's a 22-year age difference, and I would imagine when you first met, that was pronounced, even though you two clearly hit it off in some areas. Obviously, besides the two adorable girls you have, what do you have most in common?
Outlook on life, people, and the way we live.
We both have an appreciation for art and music.
All couples fight from time to time. What do you guys fight about?
We don't fight.
Usually she's really bad at directions.
Here's what it is. I'm really good at directions, and I expect him to be better, and I don't expect to have to give the kind of directions that he needs. That would be a little fight right there.
Yeah, exactly. So you have, you know, almost a decade of turmoil behind you, and now you have a year of marriage successfully behind you, and you have a lot in the future. What are your hopes and dreams from this point on?
The best next step right now would be to finally find a house.
There's something really life-giving about the whole process of looking for a home.
Do you envision having more children?
Yeah,
yes.
Definitely.
A boy.
Between 2006 and early 2015, Mary Kay and Vili faded almost entirely from national headlines. After the spectacle of their wedding and the media coverage of their one-year anniversary, they made a conscious decision to disappear from the spotlight and build as quiet a life as possible for their daughters. Mary Kay, unable to teach after her license was revoked, took the knowledge she'd gained about legal processes during her time in prison and quietly built a new career as a paralegal. Vili tried to forge his own identity outside of the shadow of his past. He poured his energy into music and event entertainment, working around the Seattle area as a DJ. For much of that decade, life was all about raising Audrey and Georgia. Outwardly, their existence was conventional. But beneath the surface, the private toll of their past and the strain of their situation mounted over time. Vili in particular later revealed those years were marked by deep depression and struggles with alcoholism. The pains of his past had a way of lingering, silent but insistent. Without access to the right mental health support, the emotional wounds of his own childhood trauma festered in the background, quietly exerting pressure on his marriage to Mary Kay. For nearly a decade, the Letoruneau Fualaau family intentionally kept a low profile. But in April 2015, just ahead of their 10th anniversary, Mary Kay and Vili chose to reemerge into the public eye. They appeared together on ABC's 2020 for a major interview with Barbara Walters, an event that made national news. For the first time in a decade, the couple's story was back in the headlines, with their now teenage daughters joining them on camera. The interview became a moment of reappraisal. Mary Kay was defiant about the strength of their relationship, committed to telling their side as a family, and determined to prove that, in their eyes, they had survived the storm together. The aftermath of Mary Kay and Vili's headline-making 2015 interview wound up becoming a turning point, not just in how the public saw them, but in how they saw themselves. For nearly a decade, they'd maintained a family routine and kept their story largely out of the press. But once they stepped back into the spotlight, the fractures that had simmered beneath the surface began to show. Over the next 2 years, their marriage, already a patchwork of challenges, started formally unraveling. In 2017, Vili filed for legal separation from Mary Kay, saying publicly that, despite efforts to reconcile, the gaps between them had grown too wide to bridge. In an interview with People magazine, a close friend of the couple described their relationship as, quote, a house of cards. They'd start building the house and then it would fall apart, and then they'd start building again and it would fall again. They just couldn't get anything solid to work. There was constant strain from financial instability, with Vili's DJ work only bringing in so much, and Mary Kay's work as a legal assistant never paying much. Their most reliable source of income came from paid interviews, revisiting their controversial past each time for a check. That's why they'd have to talk about their relationship. They've needed the cash. Do you think they've enjoyed talking about her past as a sex offender and him as a 12-year-old, and answering questions about how often they had sex? No, it's embarrassing. But that's how they've supplemented their income for years. Their age gap, always an inescapable reality, became hard to ignore as they reached very different stages of life. She's pushing 60 and he's in his mid-30s. He's never had another girlfriend. He's never really dated. And I think he's just decided that he needs to see if there's more out there for him. End quote. Years of struggle between Mary Kay and Vili had worn thin any remaining illusions. But despite Vili filing for legal separation in 2017, their story wasn't quite finished. In late 2018, they surprised the public yet again, this time announcing a reconciliation, insisting that the time apart had helped them appreciate what they had. But as those close to the couple noted, the issues of trust and intimacy that had haunted their relationship from the start remained stubbornly unsettled. In 2018, Mary Kay and Vili sat down for another televised interview, hoping to show a more honest picture of their relationship and address questions that still hovered over them. Instead of softening their image, the interview brought even harsher scrutiny. Psychologists and media outlets alike zeroed in on every detail, especially the now famous "who was the boss" exchange that many cited as further evidence of long-standing psychological control and grooming. Clips from the interview went viral, sparking a fierce and hostile public backlash. When Mary Kay claimed she didn't know statutory rape was illegal when the relationship began, it only fueled the fire. The narrative of a consensual adult love story the couple had tried to maintain disintegrated. And by Valentine's Day 2019, Vili had moved forward with the separation again, determined to end things for good. The divorce was finalized in August 2019, and for the first time in decades, Mary Kay found herself truly on her own. Friends noted that she felt completely lost, trying to navigate life in the aftermath, unsure of her future. And then, not long after the divorce papers were signed, came another blow, a diagnosis of stage 4 colon cancer. Mary Kay's future now hung in the balance. She fought the disease quietly, privately, for nearly half a year. But when her health began to decline rapidly, Vili returned, refusing to let her go through the end alone. For her final 2 months, he was at her side every day, caring for her around the clock. On July 6, 2020, Mary Kay Letourneau succumbed to the disease. 2 months after Mary Kay's death, Vili broke his silence with a rare emotional appearance on the Dr. Oz show in September 2020. He spoke openly about the harsh reality of her final days and offered a glimpse into his private grief, a side of him the public had rarely seen. On the show, Vili revealed the pain and surreal quality of losing Mary Kay to cancer. He described the exact moment she passed at home, surrounded by him and her children. Quote, "I turned over and I didn't see her chest moving, and I thought it was maybe one of those pauses she has and she'll come back. I would count in between those pauses and it was just the longest count." End quote. When he realized her breathing had stopped for good, Vili turned off her machine and told his children to call their siblings to say goodbye. He confessed to Dr. Oz that living without Mary Kay was incredibly difficult. While there was some relief that her physical pain had ended, Vili said the loss still felt unreal. Unlike her time in prison, there would be no phone calls, no letters, nothing to bridge the emptiness.
Did she realize how big a deal this was when she was diagnosed?
She believed that a miracle was going to happen and that somehow she was going to be healed and, it was going to go away.
Was Mary a difficult patient?
In terms of believing a miracle is going to happen without taking any serious aggressive action, that part made it difficult in those terms. But in the terms of it being, my wife and someone who's played a major role in my life, it's that was the most difficult part because, when we had first met, I was a lot younger, and she was, she was ripped out of my life at that time, and so, this time it's, there's not going to be another letter, and there's not going to be a phone call or a text. So I think preparing myself mentally for that was the hardest part, and still to this day, everything feels really unreal right now.
Did she give you any advice at the end before she passed?
I wouldn't say she played the role of giving me advice. I think it was more of a natural, like a relationship with two people would have in an intimate way where, you become best friends, and she was my best friend, and I felt like, she was actually the only person that actually cared, considering, my upbringing and her upbringing, a lot of things, just made sense for the both of us in the way things happened. The last thing she told me is that I am the most important person to her and that everything is going to be okay.
Is everything going to be okay?
I don't know.
You miss her?
I do. I think that the last day was sort of a sense of relief that she wasn't in pain anymore. But also really devastating, because the reality is, you're not gonna see the person that has been there for you the most.
The reality of being completely alone without her was profound, but perhaps the most pivotal moment came when Dr. Oz asked Vili how he would respond now if he found himself attracted to a minor. In a shift from his earlier public comments, Vili was unequivocal, quote, "I couldn't look at a 13-year-old and be attracted to that because it's just not in my brain. It's nothing that I'm attracted to. I'd probably go and seek some help," end quote. After his appearance on the Dr. Oz show, Vili retreated almost entirely from public life. Yet, even in his determined privacy, moments from his new chapter would occasionally break through to the headlines. In 2021, Vili briefly resurfaced in local Washington news following a DUI arrest, a charge that was quickly dropped. May 2022 marked the arrival of his third daughter. Unlike his life in the public eye before, Vili chose to keep her mother's identity entirely private, fiercely protecting his new family's peace. He also stepped into grandfatherhood twice. In January 2024, Mary Kay and Vili's youngest daughter, Georgia, welcomed a baby boy. Just a few months later, their eldest daughter, Audrey, gave birth to a son in May 2025. Vili's name returned to the broader spotlight again with the 2023 release of the film May December, a Netflix drama explicitly inspired by his and Mary Kay's story. In a rare public statement, Vili condemned the film and its creators for capitalizing on his childhood trauma and family history without ever consulting him. The experience underscored why, after everything, he prefers a life away from the cameras and headlines. Today, Vili Fualaau lives quietly in the Seattle area. He continues to work as a local DJ, keeps off social media, and shuns the spotlight. Above all, he is focused on letting his children and now grandchildren grow up in peace, finally carving a private life far from the story that, for so many years, defined him.